Join me today for a look at some 80s horror in the sewer system of New York City with C.H.U.D. This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name is Bobbie, and today we're going to be talking about the movie C.H.U.D, which takes place in New York City in the 80s. So, you know, the city looks like a real hellhole. Worse so, because a lot of it's in the sewer system. So, what's this one all about? Actually, I guess we should talk about who's in it, and maybe even explain that the title is in fact an acronym, which we are led to believe stands for
Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dweller,
or C.H.U.D. And it actually has a different acronym. The acronym actually means something else much later on in the movie, but that's not important because this one's the acronym that actually kind of makes sense. So, who's in this one? Well, we have John Hurd as a photographer, and if you don't know who he is off the top of your head, his main claim to fame would be the dad in Home Alone 1 and 2. We also have Daniel Stern, also from Home Alone 1 and 2, as the not Joe Pesci half of the crime duo, Marv, I believe. Then we have Christopher Curry, who has been in numerous TV shows and bit parts here, there, and wherever. But the main part I recognized him from is he is Johnny Rico's dad in Starship Troopers. So unlike the novel, he gets killed by the asteroid whenever it destroys Buenos Aires. In the novel, he survives and joins the Corps. And on top of that, there's several other actors just playing bit parts here and there that you'll definitely recognize, like, hey, I've seen that guy somewhere. And just all kinds of random people in this movie, including John Goodman for like 2 minutes, maybe 3. He's not even like in the main, not even listed in the main cast or anything. He's just a cop that gets killed by the C.H.U.Ds. So yeah, that's the bulk of the people that, you know, I recognize that have, you know, names and other things that they're in that are noticeable, other than, hey, it's that guy from somewhere. So, anyway, what's it about? Well, basically it's a monster movie where, as we find out halfway through the movie, 2/3 of the way through the movie, that the government has been dumping all kinds of toxic waste into the sewer system of New York. And there's like one kind of big collecting point where it's all been going. But along with that, then they dumped a bunch of nuclear waste down there. Which you find out they planned on moving it through the city or something, which I would have to imagine meant that it was already in the city somewhere. And I don't know where a bunch of nuclear waste would have come from within New York City, because I'm relatively certain there's not a nuclear power plant within the city. So I don't know where it came from, but it was already there. And so once they got shut down with a lawsuit, they had to put it somewhere. Like, well, we've been dumping all this other crap down here. Let's put this down here with it. And, well, that was not a great idea. So, the movie opens with a woman walking her dog down the street, and then a creature comes out of the manhole cover and pulls her down in there. And as we progress, we find out that the police captain, played by Christopher Curry, that it was his wife. And he's been told, like, keep a lid on the fact there's been several disappearances in this part of the city. It's kind of a rundown area. And again, it's 1980s New York, so you could probably just throw a dart at a map of New York and you'll find a rundown area. And your other main people, like John Hurd, like I said, he's a photographer. He has been down in the sewers, you know, kind of photographing some of the homeless people that live down there. Brief side note, for those of you who are unaware, there are hundreds if not thousands of miles of tunnels underneath New York City. Like layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, going back centuries for various things. I mean, we all know like there's the sewers and then the subway tunnels, but I mean there are just labyrinths of tunnels down there, and I've seen specials on it elsewhere, and yeah, like there's just massive complexes where if you don't know where you're going, you're definitely going to get lost. And so a lot of surface level buildings have openings down into those areas, or there's literally like a brick wall separating your basement from the underground, in Dungeons and Dragons terms, the underground mega dungeon underneath New York City. Don't expect much treasure down there though. So Daniel Stern's character plays a guy who's working in a soup kitchen, and he puts in a missing persons report for several people because all of the people from underground, except for one or two people, have just gone missing. And they come up and they eat, then they go back underground, and they're just gone. And he has no idea where they are. Then this police captain shows up, and so he starts to get suspicious because he's like, why is the police captain showing up for a bunch of homeless people that are missing? And so the captain finally levels with him that a bunch of other people are missing, and finally levels with him that his wife is missing. And so then Daniel Stern shows him a bunch of stuff that he found underneath there, because he's like, how every year we have this EPA, they look through the sewers and everything, usually takes about a week. And he's like, well, they've been down there for over a month and they're still down there, so clearly something is going on. He shows him stuff that he found, which included a Geiger counter and a not a badge, but something you wear to monitor radiation that you wear like in a nuclear facility, because obviously you can't see or feel or hear or smell radiation, so you have to have a detector to warn you that, hey, there's a leak, get the hell out. And it's got insignias, so he knows it's from the NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So it's not just the EPA. This is like big government stuff. So the captain gets him, and they go talk to the bigwigs downtown, and the NRC guy keeps telling him, no, we got to do things like this. And the cops are originally going to go along with like trying to keep it under wraps because they just think these people are missing. They don't know that they're dead and or transformed yet, until one of the C.H.U.Ds is captured, or not captured, they find its corpse, and then they all go take a look at it, and the cops at that point are like, yeah, we can't keep a lid on this, like that's a goddamn monster. Like, and the NRC guy's like, well, how do we know there's more than one of them? And they're like, how do we know there's not? And they figured out that he probably died from gas, probably methane. And so the guy from the NRC is like, okay, well, we'll just seal up this section, just pump it full of gas. And once they realize he's really going to do that, they're like, you're a madman, you're going to blow up half the city. He goes, no, just this little section here. And I just like, he didn't refute the whole blow up part. It was just no, we're only going to lose this little section here, because he sends his guys back underground, but the police captain also sent some guys with him with flamethrowers, and they get attacked, and it's on video, and they all get killed. So then Daniel Stern and John Hurd's character wind up trapped underground, and they come across like a bunch of the C.H.U.Ds, and that's where they find the radioactive barrels and everything else and figure out what's going on. So at that point, the NRC guy can't let them escape. And then we got various, side plots going on where there's like a reporter who's following all this stuff, has figured out something's going on but doesn't quite know what. And John Hurd's wife or girlfriend is pregnant. They're debating on what to do there. And then it turns out their building, as well as buildings, like I said, has just an opening into the underground. So one of the C.H.U.Ds comes up and she has to fight it off. And I think it's kind of implied that if the C.H.U.Ds bite you but don't kill you, that you will mutate into one of them. Because there's a guy who has a big chunk taken out of his leg. And whenever they come across him later, he's killed someone else and he's starting to mutate into the C.H.U.Ds. And they've got like big clawed hands, big like glowing eyes, and a mouth full of teeth and everything. And then they attack a diner at one point, and that's where the John Goodman cameo is. And that's, you know, the police are like, yeah, this is out of control. Like, they just killed a bunch of people in this diner. We can't keep this under wraps. And then they have to deal with, you know, two guys have to get out of the sewer, and there's a whole big action sequence for that. And they're going to go and tell everyone about the C.H.U.Ds, and the NRC guy gets killed, and, you know, the movie just kind of stops. Now, there's definitely two different versions of the movie, because I know I've seen both of them. The first time I saw it, and to be clear, I watched this on Amazon Prime, but I think it's on a couple of streaming services also, and so I'll have a link down below, and also to the physical version if you want to buy one of those. But the version that's on Amazon shows the attack on the diner about 2/3 of the way through the movie. The other version, if I remember right, doesn't show the attack on the diner until the end credits, or like the end of the movie, implying that the C.H.U.Ds weren't all wiped out. But the aftermath of the attack on the diner is kind of pivotal to the rest of the story, so it's still where it's supposed to be. But they take that scene and they put it like in a credit scene, or after what you think is the climax of the movie. So depending on which version you see, that scene is in different places. And there is a sequel, so that was kind of prophetic, but it's been a long time since I've watched it, and I want to say it involved like the military trying to use the C.H.U.Ds as weapons or something. I don't know. Thought it was less than stellar from what I recall, but I'll try to watch it again at some point if I can find it on streaming, and let you good folks know about it. So, yeah, so aesthetically, like I said, it's early 80s New York City, so everything looks just like run down and terrible and awful. You've got the corrupt police force willing to cover things up. You've got the corrupt government agency, as far as the NRC, trying to cover things up. You've got all the stuff down in the sewers, which I have no idea how much of that is like on location or they built sets for, but it all looks like it could be in the New York sewer system, so I don't know. And it's definitely portrayed as a deadly labyrinth of, you know, you're going through areas and, like, you know, over things are out and things will just like collapse underneath you, and you definitely need a flashlight because there's no natural light because you're deep underground at that point. So you got that. Then you got the whole, it's a monster movie. The creature effects look pretty good in my opinion, especially for a movie that I have to imagine had a lower budget. The creatures don't do anything fantastical except for at one point where John Hurd's girlfriend is fighting one of them, and like its neck elongates so it becomes like more serpentine and kind of bobs around, and that's the point that she's able to use a sword that he had and just lops its head off. Then you see it's glowing green blood inside there because, you know, it's radioactive, so it glows green. That's how these things work. Not really, but that's how they're portrayed in movies. So yeah, and then you've got, you know, your glowing green ooze and all that fun stuff. There are some kind of horrific scenes. Well, like the thing getting its head cut off is kind of horrific. Seeing the guy's wound that had a big chunk of his leg taken out of it looked pretty awful. Then, you know, you see a few people get attacked, but by and large you don't see them get eaten. You know, you see a few people get bit here and there. So it's kind of a mixed bag on that front. So like, if you're for whatever reason contemplating letting a kid watch this, I mean, obviously watch it first, but I think there's really just a couple gruesome scenes you'd have to get past. I don't recall there being a ton of language as I was watching it. There's no sex parts. So, you know, it's probably, with parental guidance, it's probably acceptable for a kid to watch this one. Now, by a kid, I mean like, you know, 12, 13. I don't mean like an 8-year-old. Because they'll be terrified of the monster coming up from the basement. Especially if they live in New York. But overall, I think it's a decent movie. It's not great by any stretch, but it's decent. It's a fun monster movie. Yeah. So, and you know, it looks competent, decent actors, you know. So anyway, I'd probably rank it like a 6.5, probably 6.5, somewhere in there. You know, again, it's not great, but it's definitely enjoyable past the time if you like, especially if you like monster movies. And yeah, and to think that somewhere roaming down there, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles probably also, you know, turned by the radioactive goo along with Splinter, but maybe not. You never know. So anyway, I would overall I'd recommend it. But yeah, that's our trip down 80s horror lane in New York City. So let me know what you folks think down in the comments. Have you seen it before? What'd you think? Have you seen the sequel, C.H.U.D 2, Bub the C.H.U.D? I believe that is actually the subtitle. Bub or Bud? I think it's Bud. Yeah, that's rhyming, so it'd be Bud. But anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Like I said, like, share, subscribe. Sharing and commenting are the things that help us the most, and we always appreciate it. But other than that, you know, just oh, I suppose I should note there is a reference to the C.H.U.Ds in an episode of The Simpsons. It's where Homer has to go back to New York City. Well, you find out he's been to New York City, but so now he has to go back because Barney stole his car, I think at the end of the previous season. And so it's parked between, and this will date it, it's parked between the two World Trade Center towers. And so he has to go there to get his car back, and he retails his account of going to New York back in the 80s and all these bad things that happened to him. Then the final part, you don't see this in the flashback, but he's standing there in front of the fireplace like, and then the C.H.U.Ds attacked. So, you know, just a little shout out in there in case you've never seen that episode. Or if you had and wonder what the hell he's talking about, now you know. So anyway, that's all I got, folks. So just remember, watch out for those sewer monsters.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.